This story goes back several years. My boss was a classic type of personality, controlling, manipulative, and someone who loved to toy with people just for the thrill of it. He had a long history of infidelity, despite being married to another employee at our company. His latest hobby involved taking explicit photos of himself with other women and showing them off around the office like trophies. When he found out I was seeing someone from another branch, he took an immediate interest. It didn't matter that she was my girlfriend, he just saw her as another target. During a business trip to her office, he tried to get her to sleep. May work program experience ends, a story of misunderstanding and mistreatment. After graduating from high school in 2017, I was placed in a work program for disabled adults at Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Eastvale, California. Right from the start, I knew it wouldn't be a great experience. The environment felt more like a strict daycare than a career prep class. They confiscated all of our bus passes because one student forgot to return his, so none of us had access to them. The classes were filled with busy work, like crossword puzzles, which we never did at my old school, Santiago. And during breaks, we weren't allowed to use our cell phones, something that seemed unnecessarily restrictive. Instead, we were expected to socialize, even though I'm not naturally social. They often treated us like children. For example, we had to put our heads on our desks and raise our hands to vote, which felt demeaning for young adults. Every Friday, they made us play kickball, which didn't feel appropriate for a program supposedly meant to prepare us for future careers. One incident especially sticks out. My best friend in the program innocently bought some Call of Duty theme shot glasses as a Christmas gift for his uncle. When the teacher, Mrs. Kelly Leva, found out, she got angry and went through all the students' backpacks. She even summoned a separate bus to take my friend and an aide back to return the shot glasses to the store. My friend faced other issues with her too. Once, he was forced to finish a crossword puzzle, something he struggled with, before he could eat lunch, which happened several times and disrupted his day. Ultimately, he dropped out of the program. Meanwhile, I was placed next to a student who constantly pestered and bullied me about sports teams, which I tried to ignore, but it only made the situation worse. When I brought it up with the teachers, they just told me to ignore it, which felt dismissive. Another student would often touch me without permission, and instead of intervening, the teachers brushed it off, telling me to ignore that too. In short, the experience was a nightmare. The teachers, Mrs. Kelly Leva and Miss Samantha Wairenga, were strict and, at times, outright mean. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, know that you have a voice. Speak up, seek support, and if you're not heard, don't hesitate to walk away and report it to someone who will listen. P with him. When she turned him down, he retaliated by spreading rumors about her, eventually getting her fired. I was furious, but I kept my cool and waited for the right opportunity. I knew he wouldn't keep his photos at home for fear his wife might stumble upon them, so I suspected he hid them in his office. My chance finally came one Saturday when I was working overtime. The cleaning lady unlocked his office to clean, and I slipped in, pretending to be measuring something. She asked me to close the door when I was done, then left. Once she was gone, I started searching through his desk, and sure enough, I found a thick stack of photos buried in a drawer, all of him with different women, his face clear as day. I took them all. When he was away on another business trip, I went to the post office closest to his house and anonymously mailed a dozen of the photos to his wife. The images were damning, 4 different women, none of whom resembled his blonde wife. The fallout was brutal. His wife divorced him, and her lawyer took him for everything. As for me, my girlfriend who stood by me through it all is now my wife, and we're living our best life, no grudges. Just a good story to tell. Ominous Icky feeling. For the past few years, I've been dealing with this strange, heavy feeling in my chest. It's not like being sick or having gas. It's something different, like a sense that something ominous is looming. The feeling grew gradually, building up inside me until one day, it was like I couldn't feel anything at all. I was at work, looking around at the people eating and drinking, and everything felt off. It was as if everyone forgot how to be genuine, like the life and authenticity had been sucked out of them. Suddenly, I felt this overwhelming loneliness, like I was the only real person in the room. I should probably mention that I've been diagnosed with a mood disorder, anxiety, and some pretty intense anger issues, so I know my mind isn't exactly a calm sea. But I consider myself pretty aware, even overly so. Still, that day, I couldn't shake the feeling. I went to talk to an older coworker, not wanting to lead her into what I was feeling, so I just asked if something felt off to her. Her response actually shocked me. She admitted that the day felt wrong to her, like something wasn't as it should be. Her words sent this cold, clawing sensation down my spine. This was about 7 or 9 months ago, and ever since, things have only gotten weirder. It's like I'm both numb to it and hyper aware at the same time, if that makes sense. It's not just the obvious problems in the world right now. It feels like there's something more, something deeper and darker at work. Does anyone else feel this too? Overhearing my daughter's teacher changed my mindset. So last week, I went to pick up my daughter from her elementary school a bit early. While I was waiting near her classroom, I overheard her teacher discussing how they involve students in resolving conflicts on the playground. She said something like, "Instead of punishing, we teach them to understand the other person's feelings and find a common ground." It hit me hard because I've always approached disagreements at home with ultimatums and immediate resolutions, thinking it's more efficient. This small insight made me rethink how I deal with conflicts in my own family. I've started trying to understand my partner's perspective more deeply instead of jumping to conclusions. It's only been a week, but the dynamic at home feels different, lighter somehow. The more I practice this patience and empathy, the more I've noticed my family opening up too. It hasn't fixed everything immediately, but it feels like we're on a more understanding path now. I guess I just wanted to share this because sometimes it's these little moments or overheard conversations that can alter our approach to significant aspects of life. I'm curious if others have had similar revelations from unexpected situations and how it affected them long term. Thanks for letting me share. My high school teacher reported a gas leak and had the school evacuated when I was just gassy. Back in high school freshman year, I was in world history class. And I had a really bad bout of gas from lunch, and I came in and ripped a Highness silent one. The kind that lingered quite a bit, practically had a half-life. It was so bad she reported it as a gas leak and the school was evacuated. It was declared a false alarm by the fire department. Sure, we all got out of class, but I didn't want to own up to it. Mostly due to it being embarrassing in winter. So everyone was cold. I recently told my husband as 34M that I if 30 wouldn't want to have children in the US and essentially gave him an ultimatum: we either move, stay child-free, or consider separating. Now he keeps asking why I feel this way, and I'm struggling to explain it in a way that makes sense to him. For context, I'm a dual citizen, while my husband is American. We've been discussing starting a family, but the current political climate here has made me deeply uneasy about raising children in the US, regardless of the election outcome. This isn't a financial issue. I'm financially stable as an engineer. The problem is that the country feels so different from when I moved here for college. The divisive atmosphere and the charged political landscape are incredibly unsettling. Every day, I feel this tension when I hear people discuss their political views, and it's hard not to feel a sense of dread. It's as if I'm watching history repeat itself in a way my great-grandmother once described to me about her own life. I've been hinting at moving elsewhere for about 3 years, and lately, I've even started looking at houses in Canada. But tonight, I finally told him I don't want to have children here at all. It's a deal breaker. I can't imagine raising a family in an environment that feels this unsafe, and even the thought of being pregnant here is overwhelming. When he asks, "Why are you being like this?" I'm struggling to explain it in a way he can relate to, and I'm not sure how to bridge that gap. How can I convey why I feel this strongly about it? When I was a kid, around 5 to 10 years old, something happened that's always stuck with me, partly from my own memories and partly from what my mom shared later. My mom had a close friend, Donna, who was a big part of our lives. Donna and her daughter often came over, and we had countless sleepovers. One night, though, things took a terrifying turn. Donna had been in a bad fight with her boyfriend, Fred. She either ran to our house after it happened, or was already there when Fred suddenly showed up, furious and out of control. I remember Donna rushing my sister, her daughter, and me into my sister's room. She flipped the bed on its side against the wall, had us lie down behind it, and moved the dresser to block the door. My sister was crying, and I was scared too. I closed my eyes and covered my ears, feeling helpless and unsure of what was going on outside. That's all I remember firsthand. Years later, my mom told me the rest of what happened that night. She explained that Donna had tried to protect us, hiding us in the room because Fred was at the house looking for her. My mom had gone outside to try to calm him down, telling him that Donna wasn't there and that he should leave. But instead, Fred went to his car, grabbed a shotgun, and shot at my mom as she was running back inside. She managed to get the door locked, but not before his shot peppered her back with pellets and left marks all over the front of the house. Luckily, the police showed up quickly since we lived close to the station. They took Fred down without any more violence, but the damage was done. My mom's boyfriend, who worked, rushed home to check on us, and at nearly the same time, my dad and my parents' co-parented also showed up. He'd only heard that there had been a shooting near the kids, and assumed it was related to my mom's boyfriend, so he punched him before realizing he wasn't the shooter. After that, though, they both focused on keeping us safe and supporting my mom. My mom passed away years later, still carrying those pellets in her back and neck. They caused her chronic pain that doctors couldn't fully treat. Her strength through it all is something I'll always admire. To Fred, stay away from my family forever. A man was living in my basement for months. You hear stories about people unknowingly squatting in other people's homes, but never think it would actually happen to you. It happened to me. About 10 years I, a 35th, was living alone in a two-family house on the second floor with my then toddler. For the story to make sense, I need to try and explain the layout and the backstory. My brother's close friend at the time lived on the first floor, and is the one who referred me to the landlord. We had private front entrances, but a shared back entrance with a staircase that ran from the basement all the way to the second floor. I would frequently leave my back door unlocked because I had a habit of locking my keys in the house, and my downstairs neighbor could let me in the back door. The downstairs neighbor had a friend who was kind of down and out. He had a history of substance abuse, but was supposedly clean at the time. He was a relatively nice guy, and my neighbor had been letting him stay on his couch for a while. The neighbor had a 4-year-old daughter, and having someone constantly sleeping on the couch without any plans of finding a permanent living situation was becoming disruptive to their everyday lives. Neighbor tells him he needs to go. It was summertime, so the friend decides he's going to sleep on the couch on our covered porch. We tell him that's not acceptable, and when we asked him to leave, we meant the property in general. It had also become abundantly clear that he was using again, and his behavior had become somewhat erratic. He was also making a lot of unsolicited advances on me, which had become increasingly uncomfortable. He wasn't happy, but it wasn't our problem. He stopped coming around, and we no longer saw him around town. Fast forward a month or two, and I noticed things going missing. Jewelry, small amounts of money left around the house, lighters, inconsequential items I had written off as lost. This house was old with paper-thin walls. The back door in question was right next to the bathroom along one side of the shower. It also made a very distinct noise when opened. One day my car was at the mechanic, so it probably appeared that I wasn't home. I'm showering and I swear I hear the back door open. I freeze, practically stop breathing, but after a few minutes, when nobody murdered me American Psycho style, I wrote it off again. I'm a notorious wimp and had a history since childhood of thinking every strange noise was a potential murderer. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact length of time, possibly a few weeks. The basement was really big and shared, and the landlord also stored stuff down there. It was very packed with some very dark corners. We rarely went down there. The landlord comes by one day and goes down to the basement. He hears a strange noise, grabs a baseball bat, and finds this man in our basement. The man pushed the landlord down, runs out of the house and down the street. We call the police, who find him hiding in a trash can around the corner. I can't make this shit up. Upon further investigation, we find the basement window had been ever so slightly propped open. In a back corner behind some boxes was a nest of blankets filled with our missing items, plus some drug paraphernalia. It reminded me of Creature's nest under the stairs at Grimold Place. If you know, you know. He had also left his flip phone behind in the chaos, where we found a lot of pictures of me sleeping. This man had been high on crack, living in our basement and regularly entering my apartment both when I wasn't home and when I was sleeping for months. While he seemed like a nice guy, he was regularly high on hard drugs, and that changes people. I still get chills knowing he could have done anything to me and my child, and I would have never seen it coming. The worst part is that the charges somehow got dropped, and they never even consulted us, and they never gave us an option as the victims. This was not even close to his first criminal offense. My state is notoriously soft on non-violent criminals, regardless of whether it was a victimless crime or not. My local police department is also notorious for making deals in exchange for information on even small-time dealers. We didn't get any justice. Luckily, this didn't have much lasting effect on my mental health, just more of a woof. Can't believe that really happened. It feels like a fever dream. Jason, let's not meet. Never meet up with people from online ever. I'm sharing this to help others learn from my mistakes. When this happened, I was 17, I'm now 18, and it was right before my birthday. I struggle to make friends in real life because I'm autistic, so I was on a few friend-making apps, hoping to connect with people. Just for context, I'm femme, non-binary and asexual, and I made that clear on my profile along with my interests. One day, I connected with a guy who lived about an hour away. I was looking for someone to hang out with and smoke, and he seemed chill, so I agreed to meet him. Looking back, I realize how naive that was. Anyway, we set a time and I waited for him outside. He brought me a vape pen and we took turns with it, talking and sharing deep, meaningful conversations. We really seemed to click. But as I got higher, I started feeling too out of it. I told him I needed to go back inside because I was freezing, and he agreed, walking me toward my window. In my driveway, he asked for a hug. I thought that was kind of sweet, so I went in for a hug. The next thing I knew, he was behind me with a knife pressed to my neck. I tried fighting back at first, but quickly realized that was only making things worse. I genuinely thought I was going to be another name in a true crime story, so I started doing whatever he asked, hoping he'd let me go. I was also trying to leave any evidence I could in case this went badly. In my panic, I somehow noticed scars on his thighs and remembered our earlier conversations. Desperately, I appealed to whatever humanity he had left. I said, "I see your scars. You're just like me. I know you're hurting, but this isn't going to stop the pain. It'll only mask it for a while." I don't know how I thought so clearly while so terrified, but those words were what saved me. He ended up letting me go after I promised to meet him again. I went inside, tended to a cut on my thumb, and then blocked him on everything. I saved our chat history, just in case I ever decide to go to the police. What scares me the most is that he felt so real in our conversations, like he truly understood me. But I now know that no matter how genuine someone seems, you never know their true intentions. Please, if you're reading this, don't make the same mistake. Never meet someone from online. Stay safe.